The rain hammered the tin roof of the old Brooklyn brownstone like fists on a coffin lid. Each drop a accusation Kyle couldn't dodge. His father's voice sliced through the downpour, raw and ragged. "You're not mine, boy. Not anymore. Get the hell out before you drag this family down with your filthy lies." Kyle's heart exploded in his chest, a grenade of shattered glass, as he grabbed his jacket and bolted into the night, the door slamming like the final verdict of a hanging judge. He didn't look back, not even when the cold East River wind clawed at his face, blurring the city lights into a smear of neon regret. 15 years of scraped knees, shared beers at Yankees games, and whispered secrets about girls that never quite fit. Gone in a heartbeat because Kyle had finally confessed the truth. He loved men, and the one he ached for most was waiting in a dive bar 2 blocks away. But that night, as Kyle stumbled into O'Malley's, drowning his sobs in cheap whiskey, he didn't know the fracture would spiderweb through everything he held dear, or that it would take a ghost from the grave to stitch it back together. Kyle slumped onto the scarred wooden barstool, the kind that had cradled 1,000 broken dreams under the flicker of Budweiser signs. O'Malley's was a relic, tucked in the shadow of the Williamsburg Bridge, where hipsters pretended to slum it with locals who'd been nursing grudges since the Dodgers left town. The air reeked of stale peanuts and regret, and the jukebox wailed some Springsteen dirge about highways and heartbreak. "Perfect. Barkeep," Kyle rasped, his voice cracking like thin ice. "Double Jameson." "Neat." The bartender, a grizzled vet named Frankie with tattoos snaking up his forearms like forgotten rivers, slid the glass over without a word. He'd seen Kyle's type before, kids running from ghosts, eyes hollow as the subway tunnels. Kyle knocked it back, the burn a welcome distraction from the echo of his father's words looping in his skull. "You're not mine." It wasn't just rejection. It was erasure. Like Kyle had been photoshopped out of the family album, leaving only a smudge where his smile used to be. He was 27, fresh out of a dead-end graphic design gig at a midtown ad firm that chewed up creatives like day-old bagels. Lately, he'd been freelancing logos for queer-owned coffee shops in Bushwick, small acts of defiance that paid in exposure and instant noodles. But tonight, none of that mattered. His mom had stayed silent during the blowout, her hands twisting in her lap like she was wringing out her own soul. His older sister, Mia, had texted a half-assed "call me later," but Kyle knew better. Blood was thicker than allyship in their Irish Catholic corner of Bay Ridge. The door swung open with a groan, letting in a gust of wet autumn chill and the silhouette of a guy who looked like he'd stepped off a Patagonia catalog. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a mop of chestnut curls plastered by the rain and a leather jacket slung over one arm like it was born there. He shook off like a Labrador, droplets scattering across the floor, and scanned the room with eyes the color of aged whiskey, warm, but with a kick. Their gazes locked. Kyle felt it like a static shock, the kind that lingers in your fingertips. The stranger, Charles, he'd learn later, smiled, slow and crooked, the sort that promised trouble worth chasing. He slid onto the stool next to Kyle, close enough that the scent of sandalwood and city rain cut through the bar's funk. "Rough night?" Charles asked, his voice low, laced with that easy Brooklyn drawl that made everything sound like an invitation. Kyle snorted, signaling Frankie for another round. "You could say that. Pops just disowned me for being me." He waved a hand vaguely, the words sticking like burrs. "Gay." He hadn't said it aloud to a stranger yet. Not like this. Charles nodded. No pity, just understanding. "Been there. My old man called it a phase until I brought home a boyfriend for Thanksgiving." Turkey got cold before the screaming started. He clinked his glass to Kyle's. Name's Charles. Friends call me Charlie. You, Kyle. A beat. And yeah, that tracks. Mine went straight for the jugular. Said I'm not his son anymore. Charles winced, but his eyes held steady. Harsh. But blood's overrated. You build your own family out here. He leaned in, voice dropping. And for what it's worth, you look like the kind of trouble I'd build one with. Kyle's laugh bubbled up, unexpected and sharp, cutting through the ache. It was the first real one all night. They talked until last call. About shitty jobs. Charles was a paramedic, hauling asses out of wrecks on the FDR. Bad exes. His was a Wall Street prick who'd ghosted after a weekend in the Hamptons. And the queer underground scene that pulsed like a second heartbeat in the city. Charles had that effortless charm. The kind that made you forget your scars for a minute. His laugh rumbling like thunder over the Verrazano. By closing time, they were stumbling out into the drizzle, shoulders brushing, and when Charles pulled Kyle into a cab with a murmured, "My place is closer," it felt less like a hookup and more like coming home. His apartment was a third-floor walk-up in Greenpoint, cluttered with EMT manuals, half-dead succulents, and a king-sized bed that swallowed them whole. Clothes hit the floor in a frantic trail, hands mapping uncharted territory with a hunger born of too many lonely nights. In the dim glow of a street lamp filtering through the blinds, Kyle traced the freckles across Charles's chest like constellations, whispering secrets he hadn't told anyone. Charles listened, fingers threading through Kyle's hair, and when they finally crashed together, it was messy and real, sweat-slick skin, gasps echoing off brick walls, the raw vulnerability of two guys who'd armored up too long. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled like fresh laundry and possibility, Charles pressed a kiss to Kyle's temple. "Stay," he said simply. And for the first time in hours, Kyle did. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, coffee brewing in a pot that gurgled like it was on life support. Charles padded around in boxers, flipping pancakes with a spatula like it was a magic wand. "Figured we earned carbs after that cardio," he quipped, plating them with a wink. Kyle smiled, but the high was fading, reality seeping back like damp through a cracked window. His phone buzzed. Mia. "Dad's pissed, but Mom's worried." "Come home?" He stared at it, thumb hovering. "Home. What a joke." Charles caught the look. "You don't owe them shit, Kyle." "Not after that." "Easier said." Kyle forked a bite, syrup sticky on his fingers. "We've got history. Bay Ridge isn't exactly a rainbow parade." Charles sat across from him, knees bumping under the tiny table. "History's just stories we tell ourselves. Make a new one." His hand covered Kyle's, warm and sure. "With me." It was too soon, too reckless, but damn if it didn't feel right. They spent the day wandering McCarran Park, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones, stealing kisses behind graffitied walls. Charles pointed out his favorite food truck, Korean-Mexican fusion that defied explanation, and they laughed over tacos that dripped like guilty pleasures. By evening, Kyle's walls were cracking, Charles slipping through the fissures with stories of his own. Growing up in Crown Heights, dodging stones from neighborhood kids who called him Fairy, finding his tribe at a queer youth center in the village. That night, they made love slower, exploring with the luxury of daylight fading. Charles's hands were gentle on Kyle's hips, guiding him like he was something precious, not broken. "You're beautiful," Charles breathed against his neck, and Kyle believed it, just for a moment, as pleasure coiled tight and released in waves that left them boneless. Weeks blurred into a rhythm that felt dangerously like forever. Kyle crashed at Charles's more nights than not, his duffel bag a permanent fixture by the door. They navigated the city's chaos together, brunch at Buttermilk Channel, where mimosas flowed like apologies. Late shifts where Charles's ambulance hooped past Kyle's freelance desk in a coffee shop. A text buzzing saved another one. Dinner? Quiet Sundays in bed, binging RuPaul's Drag Race marathons with takeout lo mein. But the ghost of Bay Ridge lingered. Mia kept calling, her voicemails a tightrope of loyalty and denial. Dad's cooling off. He loves you, Kyle. Just tone it down. Kyle ignored most. But one rainy Tuesday, he caved. They met at a neutral spot, a diner off Flatbush with Formica counters scarred like old grudges. Mia slid into the booth. Her nurse's scrubs rumpled. Eyes puffy. He didn't mean it. You know how he gets beer and bluster. Kyle stirred his coffee, black as his mood. He meant it, Mia said. I'm dead to him. She reached across, squeezing his hand. Family's messy, but we're blood. Give it time, time. The word tasted like ash. And what about Charles? You gonna invite us to Easter Mass? Mia's flinch was answer enough. I need to process. Okay, this is new. As if Kyle's truth was a fad, like low-rise jeans. He left with a hug that felt like goodbye, the diner door chiming like a death knell. Charles was waiting when Kyle got back, a six-pack chilling in the fridge. How'd it go? Like swallowing glass. Kyle collapsed onto the couch, head in Charles's lap. She's trying, but Dad's the anchor dragging us down. Charles stroked his hair, fingers rhythmic. Anchors sink ships. Babe, cut the line. It sounded simple, poetic even, but the pull was tidal. Kyle's freelance gigs picked up, designing apps for a queer dating startup. Pride flags woven into code and money eased the sting. Charles's shifts were brutal. Stories of overdoses in Hell's Kitchen or heart attacks in high-rises spilling out over midnight runs to the bodega for empanadas. One night, after a call that left Charles hollow-eyed, they lay awake. City hum a lullaby. Saw a kid today, Charles murmured. 16. Jumped from the Brooklyn Heights promenade. Note said his folks found out he was gay. Couldn't take the hate. Kyle's throat tightened. Jesus. Yeah. Charles turned, eyes fierce in the dark. That's why we fight, Kyle. For the ones who can't. They made love fierce that night. Bodies a battlefield of affirmation. Nails raking backs. Lips bruising collarbones. The slap of skin a rebellion. Kyle came undone with Charles's name on his tongue. A prayer against the void. Fall deepened, leaves turning the parks to fire. They threw a small Halloween bash, drag queens from the stonewalling crowd, punch spiked with absinthe. Charles in a paramedic cape saving victims with fake CPR. Kyle dressed as a fallen angel, wings singed, and Charles couldn't keep his hands off, whispering filth in his ear that made Kyle blush under the strobe lights. But November brought frost, and with it, Mia's frantic call. Dad's sick, Kyle. Bad. Liver. Doc say months. Maybe. The world tilted. Kyle drove to Bay Ridge that night, Charles's hand heavy on his thigh the whole way. The house smelled of boiled cabbage and regret. His mom a wraith in the kitchen, dabbing eyes with a dish rag. He's asking for you, she whispered. Upstairs, in the room of faded Yankees posters, Patrick O'Connor lay propped on pillows, jaundiced skin stretched tight over bones. His eyes, once stormy, were milky. "Kyle," he croaked, voice a rasp. "Didn't think you'd come." "For Mom." Kyle stood rigid, arms crossed like armor. Patrick nodded, wheezing. "I was wrong. Angry. Scared. This thing you are. But you're my blood." Kyle's laugh was bitter. "Your blood? Last I checked, you disowned me." A tear tracked down the old man's cheek. "Forgive an old fool?" The room spun. Kyle wanted to scream, to hurl the betrayal back like a Molotov. Instead, he nodded, throat burning. "We'll see." Charles waited in the car, engine idling. "You okay?" "No." Kyle leaned into him, the dashboard glow casting shadows. "But maybe." Patrick rallied for Thanksgiving, a gaunt specter at the head of the table. Mia orchestrated peace, turkey carved with forced smiles. Charles came, charming the aunts with tales of heroic saves, his hand under the table a lifeline on Kyle's knee. Patrick watched them, eyes unreadable, but he passed the potatoes without a word. After, in the crisp night, snow flurrying like confetti from hell, Patrick pulled Kyle aside on the stoop. "That boy. He good to you?" "The best." Kyle's voice cracked. "Then hold on. Life's short. Don't waste it hating." It was as close to absolution as Kyle would get. They drove back to Greenpoint, Charles humming carols off-key, and Kyle let himself believe in second chances. Winter clamped down, holidays a blur of lights and lies. Patrick faded fast, hospital beds in the living room, morphine drips beeping like accusations. Kyle visited weekly, reading the post-sports section aloud, Charles tagging along with takeout from Junior's cheesecake that no one ate. One blizzard night, as winds howled off the Atlantic, Patrick slipped away. Kyle was there, holding a hand gone cold, Mom sobbing into Mia's shoulder. The room smelled of antiseptic and finality. The funeral was a Catholic affair, black veils and Ave Marias, whispers about the prodigal. Kyle stood graveside in his best wool coat, Charles's arm a steel band around his waist. As dirt pattered on the casket like guilty rain, Kyle felt the hollow bloom. The man who'd unmade him was gone, leaving echoes. Afterward, the wake at the house, neighbors with casseroles, aunts with rosaries. Kyle nursed a Jameson, the burn familiar, when a knock rattled the door. A man in a pinstripe suit, briefcase in hand, introduced himself as Elias Grant, Patrick's attorney from some firm in the financial district. "Mrs. Connor, Mr. Connor's will. Private reading, per his instructions." They gathered in the den, Mom, Mia, Kyle, and a smattering of cousins eyeing him like he'd stolen the silver. Grant cleared his throat, unfolding the document with a flourish, the paper crackling like dry bones. "Patrick O'Connor, being of sound mind, blah blah. Assets, the brownstone, a modest IRA, the '72 Chevy in the garage. Then, to my son, Kyle Patrick O'Connor, I leave the sum of $250,000, held in trust since his birth, along with my unwavering love and apology for the pain I caused. You are mine, always were. Use it to build the life you deserve with Charles, or whoever holds your heart." The room froze. Mom gasped, hand to mouth. Mia's eyes welled. Cousins muttered, shifting like roaches in light. Kyle's vision tunneled, the words crashing over him like a rogue wave. "You are mine. Not rejection, but reclamation from beyond the veil. Grant slid an envelope across. Bank details, a letter in Patrick's shaky scrawl. Kyle's hands trembled opening it later, alone in the upstairs bedroom that used to be his. Son, I was a coward. Feared what I didn't understand. But I watched you grow strong, even when I tried to break you. That money's from overtime shifts I never told your mom about, saved for the day you'd need it. Go chase your dreams. And forgive me, if you can. Tears blurred the ink. Forgiveness? It wasn't a switch, but a slow thaw. Kyle pocketed the letter, stepping onto the fire escape where snow dusted the rungs like sugar. Below, Charles shoveled the walk, breath clouding in the cold, oblivious to the earthquake inside. Kyle descended, wrapping arms around him from behind. Hey, hero. Charles turned, snowflakes catching in his lashes. Hey yourself. You good. Better. Kyle kissed him, slow and deep, tasting salt and promise. Dad. He left me something. Said I'm his. Charles pulled back, eyes searching. The will. Yeah. And more. Kyle's voice steadied. Enough to start over. Us. A grin split Charles's face, bright as the city skyline. Road trip? California? Queer Mecca? Beaches? The works? Kyle laughed. The sound free. Why not? Spring came late, but it came. Cherry blossoms rioting pink along the promenade, the city shaking off winter like a bad dream. With the inheritance, Kyle quit freelancing scraps, sinking funds into a startup, a design studio for LGBTQ plus nonprofits, logos that screamed visibility. Charles cut back shifts, pursuing that nursing degree he'd shelved. Nights spent studying under the glow of a desk lamp while Kyle sketched beside him. They sublet the Greenpoint walk-up for a deposit on a loft in Dumbo. Exposed brick, river views, a bed big enough for tangled mornings. No more fire escapes, just skylights framing stars they claimed as their own. One June evening, as the sun dipped gold over the water, they stood on their balcony, wine glasses clinking. Charles dropped to one knee, a simple silver band glinting, nothing flashy, just real. Marry me, Kyle O'Connor? Let's make this official. Brooklyn style. Kyle's yes was a sob, pulling Charles up into a kiss that tasted of forever. Friends gathered weeks later at a rooftop bash. Drag shows, rainbow cakes, toasts that sloshed over edges. Mia was there, arm linked with a girlfriend she'd shyly introduced, mom beaming through tears. No ghost, just family forged in fire. Years later, with a kid adopted from the system, a wiry 10-year-old named Javier who'd known too many foster fails, they'd look back on that rainy night in O'Malley's as the pivot. Betrayal had carved hollows, but love filled them, drop by stubborn drop. Patrick's will wasn't just paper. It was permission to heal, to claim space in a world that too often said not yours. And in the quiet hours, when Javier snored soft and Charles's snores joined the chorus, Kyle would trace the ring on his finger, whispering thanks to the dark. You were wrong, Dad. I was always yours, and now, I'm free. The summer sun baked the Dumbo streets, turning cobblestones into skillets. But inside the loft, Issy hummed a cool reprieve. Kyle wiped sweat from Javier's brow as the kid hunched over a sketchpad, tongue poking out in concentration. Like this, Dad? Javi asked, holding up a lopsided rainbow flag with a cartoon rescue dog Charles's influence. No doubt. Perfect, Kyle said, ruffling his hair. Frame it for Pop's birthday. Javi beamed. scampering off to the kitchen for markers. Kyle watched him go, a pang of what-if twisting in his gut. What if Patrick had lived to see this? Gray hair, grandkid tugging at his sleeve, demanding stories of the old neighborhood. The will had bridged some chasm, but time's thief left voids no money could fill. Charles burst in then, scrubs traded for board shorts, duffel slung over one shoulder. Beach day. Fam. Coney's calling. Nathan's dogs. Rides. The works. Javi hooped, tackling his legs. Kyle crossed the room, stealing a kiss salty with anticipation. You're a saint. Nah. Just addicted to your post-swim glow. Charles winked, voice dropping. And other things. Heat flushed Kyle's cheeks, but he shoved playfully. Save it for the cyclone. Javi. Sunscreen. The drive out was a chaos of classic rock. Springsteen blasting Born to Run. Windows down. Wind whipping curls into madness. Coney Island sprawled like a faded carnival queen. The cyclone skeleton rattling against blue sky. Wonder Will Ferris cars dangling like earrings. They piled onto the sand. Umbrellas stabbing dunes. Javi building moats while Charles slathered on 50 SPF like war paint. Kyle stretched out, sand warm under his towel, eyes tracing Charles's form, lean muscle honed from hauls and hikes, a fresh tattoo on his ribs, a compass rose, north pointing to a tiny heart. For us, he'd said during the ink session, Kyle's hand in his through the buzz. You staring. O'Connor, Charles teased, tossing a frisbee Javi's way. Guilty, Kyle grinned. Can't help it. You're my view. Charles crawled over, bracketing him on elbows, blocking the sun. Sap, but his kiss was anything but deep, unhurried. The ocean's roar a private symphony. Javi's giggle shattered it. Gross. PDA. They laughed, pulling him into a sandwich hug, the three of them a knot against the tide. Hot dogs followed, mustard dripping like liquid gold. Then the cyclone. Screams echoing as the car plummeted, Javi's hand vice-tight in Kyle's. At the top, cresting that impossible peak, Kyle felt it, weightless, alive, the drop not fear but flight. Dusk painted the boardwalk violet, cotton candy clouds dissolving. They wandered arcade stalls, Javi nailing skee-ball for a stuffed whale he dubbed Blubber. Charles slung an arm around Kyle, breath warm on his neck. Happy, stupid happy, Kyle leaned in. Thanks to you. Back home. Javi crashed early, whale tucked under chin. Kyle and Charles moved slow through dishes, wine uncorked, jazz crooning from a vinyl player, Coltrane's sax a smoky caress. On the couch, legs entwined, Charles traced Kyle's jaw. Thinking about the studio. Expansion, hire that illustrator from the parade. Kyle nodded, swirling Merlot. Yeah. And maybe a scholarship fund. For queer kids. Art supplies. No strings. Patrick's money had seeded dreams, but ripples spread. Charles's eyes softened. He'd be proud. Think so? Kyle's voice hitched. The will's echo still surprised him. Validation from a man who'd wielded silence like a blade. I know so. Charles pulled him closer, lips brushing temple. You're proof love wins, babe. Messy, but it does. Bed called. Sheets cool against sun-kissed skin. They undressed deliberate, hands reverent. Charles's palms sliding down Kyle's back, thumbs circling dimples. Kyle nipping collarbone, eliciting that rumble he craved. It built languid, a tango of touches, fingers interlacing overhead, hips grinding in sync. breaths mingling until release crested soft, like waves lapping shore. After, spooned in dark, Charles murmured, "Love you, artist. Love you, healer." Kyle's words slurred into sleep, dreams of bridges unbroken. Monday dawned with emails, client pitches, Javi's school forms. Kyle's studio, Prism Designs, had bloomed from a spare room desk to a Bushwick warehouse space, walls splashed with murals from local queer artists. He mentored now, kids like Javi but older, sketching identities they'd hidden too long. Charles's nursing program chewed hours, but he thrived top of class, volunteering at a clinic in Bed-Stuy for underserved folks. Saw a guy today, he shared over takeout that night, lo mein steaming. Undocumented, scared shitless of hospitals. Reminded me of us, pre-you. Kyle forked noodles, thoughtful. We were islands back then. Now, archipelago. Charles grinned, stealing a kiss over cartons. Javi piped up from homework. What's that mean? Connected land, Kyle said. Like family. August heat wave hit like a freight train, city asphalt shimmering. They escaped to the Catskills, a borrowed cabin on a lake ringed by pines. Charles's buddy from the firehouse, a bear of a lesbian named Rosa. Rough it, she'd said, tossing keys. No Wi-Fi, just loons calling and fireflies winking. Javi fished with a zealot's focus. Reeling in perch he released with giggles. Kyle and Charles kayaked at dawn, paddles dipping silent, mist veiling the water like bridal gauze. This, Charles said, shipping oars, is heaven. Kyle shipped his, drifting close. You're my heaven, corny, but true. They tangled in the kayak, rocking gentle, laughter bubbling as it tipped, splashes and curses, surfacing to float on backs, hands linked above waves. Evenings by fire pit, s'mores sticky, stories swapped. Javi confessed nightmares of old Fosters, voices mean. Charles hugged him fierce. Not here, buddy. We're your anchors. Kyle's chest swelled. Anchors. The word flipped, no longer sinking, but steady. One night, storm rolled in, thunder grumbling like distant artillery. Rain lashed tin roof. Javi burrowed between them in the queen bed, thunder his lullaby. Kyle lay awake, Charles's arm over both, the weight a shield. Lightning flashed, illuminating faces. Javi's peaceful, Charles's rumpled, and Kyle whispered to the storm, "Thanks, Dad, for the start, the mess, the will that said enough." Morning cleared to blue, birdsong piercing. They hiked a trail, Javi leading with a stick sword, Charles hoisting him piggyback when legs tired. Summit view, valleys rolling green to horizon, Hudson a silver thread. Promise me, Kyle said, breathless. We climb more. Together, every peak, Charles vowed, sealing with a kiss salt-lipped. Fall crept back, leaves turning riot. Studio launch party. Investors in chinos, artists in glitter, toasts to visibility in every pixel. Kyle spoke, voice steady. This is for the erasures. The not minds. We're rewriting the script. Crowd cheered. Charles in the front row, eyes shining pride. Later, in the loft, confetti still in hair, they celebrated private champagne fizzing, bodies arching under moon through skylight. Charles entered him slow, eyes locked, whispers of mine, always a mantra against old wounds. November marked the will's anniversary. Kyle visited the grave alone. Bay Ridge Cemetery crisp with frost. headstones like crooked teeth. He laid a single daisy, Patrick's favorite from Mom's garden. Miss you, old man. Screwed up, but you tried. That's something. Wind whisked petals, a reply unspoken. Home. Charles waited with pie, Mia's recipe, shipped upstate. Javi devoured slices, crumbs on chin. Best day, he declared. Every day was, Cal thought, watching them, his archipelago, vast and vital. Winter solstice brought snow, fat flakes blanketing bridges. They strung lights on the loft's beams, Javi directing like Spielberg. Charles hauled the tree, a Charlie Brown special that leaned drunk. Ornaments. Javi's clay handprints, a rainbow bulb from their wedding, a tiny EMT badge. Dinner, fondue, cheese bubbling, dips chaotic. Post-feast, they danced, Javi twirling with Kyle, then Charles sweeping him low, dip dramatic. Music shifted slow, Javi yawning to bed. Alone, fire crackling in the portable hearth, Charles pulled Kyle close. Grateful for this year. You, the kid. The fight won, Kyle nodded, throat full. To more, their lovemaking was fire-warmed. Urgent. Charles's mouth hot on thighs, Kyle's gasps fueling the blaze. Climax shattered like stars. Afterglow a cocoon. New Year's dawned crisp. Resolutions scribbled on napkins. More adventures. Deeper roots. Fiercer love. The city rang in with fireworks over the river. Bursts painting faces in color. Kyle held Charles's hand, Javi on shoulders, and felt the arc complete from that barstool fracture to this hole. Betrayal's scar faded, a faint line amid tattoos of time. Patrick's will, not salvation, but spark. The rest, they built, brick by stubborn brick. And in the dawn's first light, Kyle whispered to the skyline, "We're yours now. All of us." Spring 2026 bloomed defiant, tulips thrusting through Manhattan mulch like middle fingers to winter's grip. Kyle's studio hummed, new hires sketching campaigns for trans rights orgs, the air thick with marker fumes and manifestos. He'd taken the inheritance's core, parlayed it into equity, watches the nest egg hatch ideas that flew. Charles graduated nursing that May, cap tassel swinging like a pendulum. Ceremony at NYU, auditorium packed with families hollering names. Kyle and Javi sat front row. Javi's sign, "Go Pops, save the world," wobbling on poster board. When Charles crossed stage, diploma clutched, their eyes met, love's Morse code in a wink. "Couldn't without you," Charles said later. Over beers at the faculty club, Javi home with Mia for a sleepover. "Bull. You're a machine," Kyle clinked bottles. "But yeah, team effort." Night deepened, city lights winking approval. Back in Dumbo, they shed layers slow, ties loosened, shirts unbuttoned, a trail to the bedroom like Hansel and Gretel crumbs. Charles backed Kyle against the wall, hands pinning wrists, mouth claiming with a growl. "My nurse now. Let me examine you," Kyle shivered, arching. "Thoroughly. Document." It was play-edged sharp, Charles's fingers probing. Tongue mapping scars both seen and felt, Kyle writhing under the scrutiny until pleas tumbled free. Release hit like a fever break. Bodies slick, souls synced. Summer sizzled. Family trip to Provincetown. Cape Cod's queer haven. Dunes rolling white to sea. Rented a cottage on the bay. Bikes chained out front. Javi's first ocean plunge, a squeal of delight. Whales breached offshore. spouts like champagne pops. They picnicked on lobster rolls, sand in sandwiches, salt on skin. Evenings. Drag brunts at A House. Feathers and falsettos. Charles twirling Javi on makeshift floor. Cal watched. Heart full, this normalcy hard one. A middle finger to the boy who'd run from rain-soaked rejection. One dawn. Fog cloaking the spit. Kyle and Charles walked the breakwater, hands swinging. Remember O'Malley's? Cal asked, pebbles crunching. Like yesterday, Charles squeezed. Whiskey and you, best bad decision. Cal halted, facing him. Think about the what-ifs? If Dad hadn't? Charles's gaze steadied. Every day. But they led here. No regrets. Kiss sealed it. Briny and brief. Waves lapping agreement. Fall brought curveballs. Javi's school play, The Wizard of Oz. Him as Scarecrow. Straw poking ears. Rehearsals 8 evenings. Cal sewing costumes. Charles prompting lines over dinner. Opening night. Auditorium buzzing. Javi nailing, If I Only Had a Brain with gangly charm. Applause thundered. Backstage. Hugs crushed. Tears pricking. After party at a pizzeria. Slices folding grease. Mia cornered Kyle by the arcade games. He's thriving. You did that. We did. Kyle hugged her tight. Since the will, she'd evolved out to the family, dating a barista named Lena. Bridges mended with mortar of time. Mom, frilier now. Arthritis gnawing. FaceTimed from Bay Ridge. My boy's a star. Tell him Grammy's proud. Pride. The word landed soft. No barbs. November chill nipped. Anniversary of the reading. Kyle organized a quiet thing. Dinner at Grant's office. The lawyer who'd appended worlds. To twists, Grant toasted. Scotch amber. Twists, Kyle echoed. Charles's foot nudging his under table. Post-dinner. Wandering financial district. Skyscrapers looming like judgmental titans. Kyle unburdened. That day. Felt like judgment. But it was grace. Charles nodded. Your dad's way of saying sorry. Loudest he could. Home. Javi asleep. They lit candles, blackout from a nor'easter. Shadows danced. Wine warming veins. Charles knelt. Not proposal but plea. Dance with me? No music. Just hum. Sway slow. Body's memory. Hands roamed familiar. Kyle's undershirt. Tracing abs. Charles's down spine. Cupping ass. To bed. Urgent. Charles flipping him. Entering with a sigh. Rhythm building to crescendo. Climax synced. Gasps harmonized. After. Tangled. Kyle murmured. Grace everywhere now. Winter wrapped gifts early. Charles's clinic promotion. Head nurse at the bed stewie spot. Celebration. Rooftop at the William Vale. Skyline glittering. Javi in a tiny bowtie charming nurses. Snow swirled confetti. Toast slurring joy. Holiday cards featured them. Studio family photo. Javi mid-laugh. Charles's arm around Kyle's waist. Mailed to Bay Ridge, where Mom pinned it proud. New Year's Eve. Party at Rose's Firehouse crew. Queer icons in kilts and crowns. Fireworks boomed. Auld Lang Syne warbling off-key. Midnight kiss stretched eternal. Charles's whisper. To us, unbreakable. 2027 dawned ambitious. Kyle's studio snagged a TEDx slot. Designs for the disowned. Talk weaving personal thread with pixels. Stage fright gnawed. But Charles rehearsed him nights. Javi audience of one with popcorn. Applause crashed post-talk. Emails flooding. Collabs. Keynotes. Validations rush. Eddie. Charles. Meanwhile, moonlighted crisis counseling. Hotline for LGBTQ plus youth. Voice steady anchor in storms. Stories bled home. Runaways. Coming outs gone nuclear. Echoes of us, he'd say, Kyle holding space. Spring break. Road trip southwest. Route 66 echoes in a rented RV. Grand Canyon yawned vast. Javi gaping at rims red as rust. Campfire tales. Ghosts of migrants. Charles spinning medic yarns. Kyle drawing constellations on napkins. One night, stars carpet thick. Javi tucked in RV. They slipped to a ledge. Blanket spread. Bodies bare under moon. Charles's mouth worshipful on Kyle's length. Hands pinning hips. Kyle reciprocating. Throat full of devotion. Union followed. Earth firm beneath. Sky witness to ecstasy. Wild, Charles panted after. You, Kyle replied, tracing stars on skin. Summer festival season. Pride in June. Floats thumping bass down Fifth. They marched. Javi on shoulders waving flags. Confetti raining queer confetti. After. Bathhouse after party, steamy, sinful. Hands anonymous but eyes locked on each other across fog. Fall harvest. Apple picking upstate. Javi's cheeks cider stained. Pie baking wars. Charles's crust flakier. Kyle's filling spiced fierce. Judges. Mia and Lena. Verdict tied. Kisses all around. Thanksgiving sprawled multigen. Bay Ridge to Dumbo. Tables groaning turkey. Lena's vegan riff. Toasts circled. Mom's teary to family. Found and kept. Patrick's absence a gentle hollow. Filled with stories swapped. December deep. Javi's birthday 12. Laser tag bash with school pals. Chaos neon. Squeals echoing. Cake smash. Wishes for world peace and more whales. Nightcap. Just them. Bourbon neat. Charles pulled a box leather journal. Embossed our story. Write it. For Javi. Someday. Kyle thumbed pages blank. We will. Bed beckoned. Love lazy. Fingers linked. Grinding slow. Peaks plateaued sweet. Year's end. Balcony vigil. Fireworks fractal. Resolutions renewed. Kyle leaned into Charles. From not mine to this. Magic. Us, Charles corrected. Pure us. And in that truth. Worlds held. 2028 unfurled like a banner. Bold hues. Kyle's TED Talk went viral. Clips shared in group chats from Seattle to Savannah. Invites stacking like Jenga. He keynote at a conference in San Francisco. Castro District pulsing rainbow. Charles tagged along. Javi with Mia. Their hotel overlooking the bay. Foghorns moaning low. Panels buzzed. Reclaiming narrative through design. Kyle wove the will's tale. Raw. Redacted for stage. Drawing gasps. Nods. Q&A. A teen. Eyes wide. How'd you forgive? Kyle paused. Time. And love's stubbornness. After. Charles waited backstage. Flowers pilfered from lobby. Star. Kiss fierce. Hotel key burning pocket. Night. City lights below. Bodies electric. Charles pressing Kyle to window. Glass cool on palms. Thrusts sinking with trolley clangs outside. Mine, growled. And Kyle arched. Claiming back. Javi's summer camp. Queer arts program in the Poconos. Buses rumbling off with waves. First drop-off teary, Javi brave. Backpack stuffed bears. Miss you. Dads. Conquer. Kyle called, throat tight. Empty nest echoed. They reclaimed space. Date nights at hidden gems, smoky jazz dens in Harlem, speakeasy cocktails in speakeasy basements. One evening, rooftop cinema, broke back under stars, blankets shared, tears silent. Post-film, Charles's hand heavy. Our mountains here, Kyle squeezed. Always. Fall foliage tour, New England loop. BNBS with 4 posters. Leaf-peeping drives. Vermont syrup farms. Javi mailed maple candies. Acadia cliffs. Waves crashing white. Hike to Cadillac summit. Wind whipping. Charles proposing a vow renewal. Casual. Beachy. Next summer. Yes. Kyle breathed. Seals with salt air kiss. Winter solstice. Studio holiday soiree. Garlands glitter. Eggnog spiked. Javi debuted pottery, wonky mugs painted pride. Charles's clinic gift. Custom stethoscope. Engraved heart listener. New Year's quiet. Cabin upstate. Snowshoeing trails. Firelit chess. Losses laughed off. Winds savored slow. 2029 bloom change. Charles's book deal. Memoir sirens and saviors. Frontline tales laced queer lens. Agent lunches in Soho. Outlines scribbled cafes. Kyle designed cover. Ambulance silhouette morphing phoenix. Flames rainbow-edged. Javi 13. Growth spurt gangly. Crushes blooming tentative. Dad, there's this boy. Over ice cream. Kyle listened. Charles nodding sage. Heart's compass. Follow true north. School dance. Javi nervous in button down. Kyle tying tie. Charles spritzing cologne. Porch wait. Limo pull flashbulbs from nowhere. Kid beaming corsaged. Pride that year float sponsor. Studio banner billowing. Javi emceeing Kid Zone. Mike Tiny in fist. Evening after party. Ailey concert. Bodies fluid grace. Backstage meet. Dancers sweat glistened. Hugs effusive. Fall crisis. Mom's fall. Hip shatter. Bay Ridge rush. Hospital sterile hum. Surgery success. Rehab grind. Kyle shuttled. Charles covering shifts. Mia tag team. Lena cooking stews. One night. Mom's room dim. She gripped Kyle's hand. Your father. Regretted most that night. Wrote the will same week. Secret. Kyle's eyes burned. Knew that. Forgave long ago. Her smile frail. Good boy. Love your family. Home. Charles held him through sobs. Your gold. Spring renewal. Vow bash on Fire Island beach. Toes sand sunk. Guests ferry arrived. Rosa DJing disco. Mia officiating quirky. Rings exchanged anew. Waves whooshing amen. Reception. Clam bake. Fire dancers twirling sparks. Javi. Teen now. Best man toast slurred earnest. You guys taught love's action. Thanks. Dance floor barefoot. Charles spinning Kyle. Dips dizzy. Hotel suite after. Champagne fizz. Bodies champagne warm. Charles's tongue tracing vows on skin. Kyle reciprocating with bites marking promises. Union fervent. Dawn gilding sheets. Summer odyssey. Europe hop. Paris cafes. Kyle sketching Eiffel graffiti. Rome fountains. Charles tossing coins wishes. Santorini sunsets. White's blinding blue. Javi video called daily. Camp tales tumbling. Fall harvest home. Book launch for Charles. Union Square buzzing. Readings raw. Passages on that first ambulance call post O'Malley's. Sirens wailing like fate. Signings stretched. Fans tearful. After quiet dinner, just them, Typad see you steaming. You slayed, Kyle said, foot hooking ankle. Team, Charles grinned. Your designs sold it. Winter whisper. Javi's first heartbreak. Boy ghosting text. Ice cream vigil. Charles's arm around shoulders. Stings, but stars realign. Kyle echoed. Memories flashing, Brooklyn rain. Bar lights. New Year's Eve. Gala at the studio. Donors dazzled. Auctions for causes. Ball drop virtual. Kisses real. Resolutions. Deeper. Bolder. Together. 2030 dawned, decade mark. Loft fuller. Javi's room posters banned. Bookshelves sagging. College chats loomed, but savored now. Kyle's exhibit. MoMA fringe. Wills and whispers. Installations weaving loss to legacy. Opening throng. Critics nodding. Charles's dedication plaque. To the man who willed us whole. Javi interned summer. Studio gopher turned prodigy. Logos popping fresh. Fall foliage again. Family loop. Mom in scooter. Laughing windswept. Thanksgiving fusion. Lena's curry turkey. Mia's pies. Toasts long. Patrick invoked gentle. To redemption's reach. December deep. Charles's Clinic Award. Community hero. Speech humble. Healings collective. My anchors. Kyle. Javi. You all. Nightcap. Jazz club. Horns sultry. Home. Lovemaking languid. Fingers piano keys on ribs. Peaks symphonic. Ears close. Balcony. City hush snow muffled. Fireworks faint. Hands clasped. From fracture to fortress, Kyle murmured. Charles kissed knuckles. Ours forever. In that vow, eternities nested. 2031 etched maturity. Lines faint around eyes. Love's deeper etched. Javi 16. Drivers permit terror. Charles passenger shotgun. Kyle white-knuckled rear. First solo, pizza run. Return triumphant. High fives all. Studio scaled. Satellite in LA. Kyle jetting coasts. Designs gracing billboards. Love reclaimed. Subway ads pulsing pride. Charles's book sequel. Echoes of Care. Podcasts booked. Spring break. Costa Rica ziplines. Javi whooping canopy. Monkeys chattering chorus. Beach bonfires. Stories esmoored. Mom's milestone 80. Bay Ridge bash, balloons sagging. Cake tears. Wheelchair thrown. Grandkids, Mia's twins now. Toddling chaos. Toast. To O'Connor's. Resilient. Summer scorcher. Hudson sail. Yacht chartered friends. Javi helming novice. Sails billow brave. Sunset anchors. Swimsuits shed. Charles and Kyle stealing dips. Bodies buoyant tangle. Fall pivot. Javi's college apps. Essays raw, foster scars to family forge. Acceptances snow, NYU Tish. Film dream. Tears proud. Hugs crushing. Pride crescendo. Grand martial nod for Kyle. Float atop chariot float. Charles beside waving. Parade roar. Confetti catharsis. Winter wonder. Family ski Catskills. Javi shredding black diamonds. Charles tumbling powder laughs. Cabin nights. Cocoa spiked. Board games raucous. New Year's Eve. Intimate. Loft aglow. Javi's pals crashed. But midnight there's balloon drop silly. Kiss profound. 2032 bloomed launches. Javi NYU bound. Dorm unpacked tears. Empty echo, but visits vowed. Kyle's docu-series. Pixels of Pride. Streaming hits. Will's Tale episode. Patrick's voiceover ghostly. Emmy's buzz. Red carpet awkward. Charles tucks sharp. Whispering sexy nerd. Spring renewal. Vow 10th. Vow Beach Hamptons. Guests intimate. Rings polished. Sands shift. Javi films. Director I. Summer Euro Redux. Greece Islands. Ferries rocking. Ouzo toast. Athens ruins. Echoes ancient loves. Fall frame. Mom's fade. Hospice gentle. Bedside vigil. Stories looped. Patrick's pranks. Kyle's birth yell. Last breath peaceful. Hand in hers. Funeral spring-like. Dirge soft. Winter wrap. Grief group Charles leads. Collatens. Shares shards. Healing communal. New Year's dawn. Resolutions resilient. 2033 etched legacy. Javi's short film fest win. Bridges built. Nod to them. Premiere Thierry. After-party toasts. Studio Global. Berlin branch. Kyle keynotes. Charles consults INTL. Clinics queer focus. Spring splash. Adoption ponder. Teen maybe. Circle complete. Summer stateside. Road trip Southwest Redux. RV rumbling memories. Fall foliage final mom tribute. Plant tree Bay Ridge. Plaque roots deep. Pride pinnacle. Lifetime nod. Speech soaring. From not mine to ours all. Winter warmth. Holidays hybrid. Mia's twins shrieking joy. New Year's. Fireworks familial. Years cascaded Javi grads. Directs indie hit. Dedication dads. Wedding his. Partner Alex. I'll walk Thierry. Kyle graying graceful. Charles curls silver fox. Travels tempo. Italy villas. Japan onsens body slower. Soul swift. Studio empire. Foundations funded. Art queer eternal. Charles retires partial. Memoirs trilogy crown. Grandkids toddle. Javi's boy. Mia's girl chaos cherished. Anniversary stack. 20th beach. Vows voiced waves. Reflections porch swings. That night. Kyle muses. Rain right at us. Charles nods. Will's whisper. You are mine. Sunsets shared. Hands vain stories. Legacy not endpoint. But echo loves Will. Enduring. In twilight's gold. They sit. Unbreakable.